And today I'm answering the question of how many days a week should I bench? This is something that I get asked often. What is the optimal frequency? Hey guys, Coach Ben here, bigbenchas.com. And today I'm answering the question of how many days a week should I bench? This is something that I get asked often. What is the optimal frequency for bench pressing? And it's going to be highly individual, so it's always a tough question to answer, but I'm going to give my general recommendations and then some guidelines, and we're going to talk on some specific circumstances in which you might higher the frequency, upgrade a little bit, or take back from how much benching you're doing. Okay, so if you're a full power athlete, so if you compete in the squat, bench, deadlift, obviously bench is a portion of your total. It is not all you compete in, so you do have to focus on other training aspects. You have to make sure that you're recovering for your squat, your deadlift, and adding more benching into that scenario might hinder some of your recovery you can put towards those other lifts, because at the end of the day you're still training, you're still exhausting yourself, so we can't pull from the bucket too much if you're a full power lifter. What I recommend for those who train full power is twice a week for majority. This is usually where I'll start my athletes, twice a week, and then we will either cut down or add from there. But full power twice a week, and that again, that might not be benching all the time. You might have 2 bench days in there, but the other day might be an overhead press base day, and then you do some other variation of pressing, or you hit rows or some type of upper body work a little bit more. But 2 times a week, and then a full power lifter could train 1 to 3 times. So many of our women athletes, I do have them potentially bench 3 times a week in some capacity. There might be one main bench day, but there might be other opportunities to get some bench work in. So it might be more of a secondary based work. Maybe it's a spoto press after some deadlifts on that 3rd day. Okay, so that frequency range varies upon some different variables. Okay, so bench only lifters, if someone comes to me, they say I just want to focus on the bench, I'm going to start them off training 3 times a week on the bench. All right, and that's going to include 2 times at least majority just plain old regular bench and flat benching. Okay, the other day might be a variation lift like an overhead press or something like that. A bench only lifter, I say you could range from 2 to 4 times a week. I don't think as a bench only lifter you need to train just once a week, because if that's your sole focus, there's always another day you can add in there, even if it's not high intensity, to get some type of patterning work in. All right, because now that's the only lift you're focusing on. So we have a bigger well of recovery and we're only taking from it once a week. You know, we can definitely add in something there that is going to help us get better. All right, so a bench only lifter, I'm gonna start at 3 times a week, and they could range from 2 to 4 times a week. Okay, so they could be benching very often if they play their intensities right. You know, what are some things that play into this general prescription here, how often you should bench? Well, a lot of variations, okay, or variables, including variations. So if you're constantly benching, that can really cut into your recovery, especially in terms of small injuries, nagging things popping up, overuse injuries from doing something a specific way for so long. Like for example, if I bench a lot, like 2 times a week on a regular basis at a pretty good volume intensity, I'll start to get worn down a bit, my elbows start to hurt, my forearms to tighten up and stuff. There's some things that I got to account for that sometimes dictate how often I bench. So a lot of times that second bench day, I say bench day, but sometimes it turns into overhead press, or maybe it's an inclined dumbbell. It's not always flat benching. So you can get more work in if you work with variations. You're not always flat benching, but you're doing something else that is pressing related to get some upper body volume. Okay, so using variations allows you to add a little bit more to how often you're pressing. So if you're a full powerlifter and your bench is really stagnant, maybe try adding in a variation of a lift and then going and doing more benching in general. But just try to get more upper body volume first. Then we have to, of course, the king of it all, recovery. And recovery is really gonna dictate everything about this right here, okay? How well do you recover? If you recover like shit and you feel beat up for the next bench day, or you're just having a hard time keeping up with intensity for the next bench day, you don't recover well in general, your conditioning's down, that's gonna play into it. You're not gonna be able to bench as often, all right? You can't take from that well and not refill it, all right? You need to refill that recovery well. Training max. If you have a very high training max, if you're benching 800 pounds, you're probably not going to be able to do it quite often. That takes a lot out of you. So if you have a high intensity bench day, you might have to back down or completely eliminate another bench day because you are just still fried from that session. Because the higher intensities you work at, the more demands it is on your body. You're under a lot of load. If you're just starting out and you don't even have a 200-pound bench max yet, you can afford to add more benching into your routine. So you may be a full power lifter, maybe you're not hitting a 200-pound bench max yet, you could probably push 3 times a week. Or if you're a bench only lifter, you didn't bench 300 pounds yet, you could definitely push 3 times, maybe you even want to do 4 times. All right. The higher up you get in intensity, the more you got to watch this because you're working at a higher intensity most of the time. Time of the training cycle. Closer to a meet, I am going to be dialing this back. So as a full power lifter close to the meet, I'm probably going to take out that second day of benching within the last potentially 4 weeks, maybe a little later. I'll peel out that second bench day to allow more recovery. So it depends on the time of the training cycle and what your goals are. Maybe early on in the training cycle, bench is a weak point, you want to hammer it, add more frequency in. Intensities, and that's pretty much what I'm getting at with the different days here is you can't have them all be at a high intensity. All right, that's why variations are so key and why they work well, because typically if you're doing a close grip feet up bench, perhaps the boards, and that's a weak point for you, you're not going to handle as much weight. So it's automatically going to cut back on the intensity of a lift. If we're doing Spoto press, we're doing it with a variation spin on it, something that's very tough to do, we're using a football bar or something like that, we're not going to lift as much weight as if we were doing our regular competition style bench press with our regular grip. Okay, so a variation automatically cuts down on intensity. Something I usually do with my bench only lifters, one of those days is recovery based. The pressing for that day is only like a 2x20 or 2x15 bench press. So it's a lot of reps, very, very lightweight, and it's just to keep going through that pattern, but use it more as a way to get additional blood flow to the upper body and spark recovery for the next session. Okay, so that's my general recommendation right here for you, but a lot plays into it, as you can see, and we could go on and break down each individual and really see what their schedule is like, how well they're recovering, what other stressors are going on, what point in the training cycle they're at. There's a lot that goes into it. That's why it's a tough answer to give, but this would be a general breakdown. So hope this helps you out, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, coachben@bigbenchas.com. Check the links below. I will talk to you next time at the whiteboard. Meet me on the bench. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel over here. Check out the links in the description box below. You can see a video related on this topic right here, and then our latest video right there. Thanks for watching.